For sure.
Mhm.
Well, hey, thank you for taking a minute out. And I want to begin our conversation with surviving the last 3.5 years plus of getting through a pandemic. How did you get through it? How did it change you?
You know what? It's probably the best years of my life. And I can't believe it's been 4 years almost since we shut down. It's crazy.
It's a blur.
Uh, for me, it was a huge reset. I think it was the healthiest thing that we ever could have done as a country. Because, we were all open 24 hours a day. We were all like scrambling. Family wasn't really that important. So, I mean, we were all so busy. And so it forced us to kind of reset and reevaluate and spend time with the people that are important to us or with ourselves, obviously. So
Yeah.
for me, I wrote a book. I had the best real estate income I've ever had in my life. I've delved in, spent probably over $200,000 in coaching programs and just became a happy, confident, comfortable person. So that's how it changed me.
So there's so many things on paper, titles that you have, but I want
Yeah.
to kind of boil that down to its element, the main core. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day, and one
Mhm.
of the kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
And make dreams come true.
I like it.
Yeah.
So, what did you want to be in the third grade?
What did I want to be? You know what? That's a good question because I've always wanted to help people. And so, third grade, I'd have to look. I have a whole bunch of journals, but I don't know. It's kind of a fuzz. It was, mm, I know it was helping people. I probably wanted to say I was a teacher or something
Okay.
because, yeah.
So you're an author, you're a coach, you're an entrepreneur, you're a real estate enthusiast, you're a podcast host. There's all of these elements. So take me back to where it all began. Where were you born and raised, and what were the seeds that were put into you to evolve into all of these different vocations?
I love your questions. Born in Provo, Utah, but lived Oklahoma, New Mexico, California a couple times. So I lived several different Virginia, and then I came back to my roots, I guess. So I was raised in California. I would say for the most part, from kindergarten, I skipped fourth grade, but from kindergarten to, well, no, from first grade to 12th grade, I grew up in Bakersfield, California. So what was your next question?
No, it was like, how did you get all of these different
Ah,
interests that have
yeah.
become who, because you got this mincing of the right and left brain going on.
Yeah, so the last 4 years, that's when it all happened
Okay.
because I came to Provo to go to BYU so I could get this education, and I swore I'd never stay in Utah because I'm like, no, this culture kind of crazy weird,
Yeah.
even though I'm in that culture. And so I ended up staying, getting married, and I went through a divorce about 15 years ago, this month actually. Um, and so I've always played it safe. I became a college teacher at 22. And so for 16 years of my life, I moved up the ranks, became the dean and then the director, and opened up a college in Salt Lake. And it was that time when I opened the college that I was also going through my divorce. And so I had 4 kids from 3 to 10. And I worked like 70-hour weeks. And to get it accredited, I sent my kids, it was during the summer, I sent them up to their uncle and their aunt's house to be with their cousins for a month. And I basically lived at that school to make sure that we got accredited. As soon as we got accredited, a week later, my boss, I come in, my boss is there was some other guy, and he's like, hey, we're going to let you go. And I'm like, huh? And he goes, basically, the CEO, they were an East Coast company. The CEO had a best friend in Florida who wanted to come back to Utah and needed a job. So they fired me. Best day of my life because the day that I was let go or laid off or told I was going to be, my son got kicked out of preschool. And so I contacted some of the corporate people and they're like, Charisse, we can't believe that happened to you. So I ended up working from home for about 9 months and ended up meeting somebody else, got engaged, and we got engaged in Israel, came back, and I was laid off because they had to lay off a third of their corporate staff. So now I'm like jobless, right? And 4 kids. And so that moment was pivotal for me that I realized I will never work for somebody else
Yeah.
and put that much time and effort into it. And that ended up happening again. So that was kind of the pivotal role, kind of the launch for realizing that I had to do something else. When I got married to my husband, then I did go back and work for a school for a little while, but then I finally, I had a baby with him, and I'd always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So that was kind of the start of the start. But we ended up being on food stamps. And because of that, like, I had to choose, do I keep working 70-hour weeks, or do I want to be a mom? And I had two special needs kids and so I had to stay home. And so we ended up going on food stamps. My brother approached us with an investment opportunity to invest in Honduras, like the hotel, a catamaran, a restaurant, blah, blah, blah. Invested $200,000, mortgaged my home so we could do that. And it flopped because he didn't tell us all the details. So 5 kids, food stamps, $200,000 in the hole. Now what? So that was kind of the launch of my life into real estate investing. And then I got my license as a real estate person. And then I realized I like the investing side. And so we were able to, like, my best friend approached me right when we got out of that hole. It was another $200,000 I lost. I go to my husband's graduation in San Diego, and we come back and she closed the company. And so, like, she racked up $30,000 on my credit card and said, sorry, see you later. And so I was $200,000 in the hole again. So my best friend, my brother, the people I love the most in my life, ouch. So that was kind of the turning point. And so the last 9 years, we've really just catapulted ourselves out of a hole, and now have passive income that we're doing quite well. And so trying to teach people that. So that's kind of the real estate investing side. But the other side was, having somebody very special with my kids, and them continually having their heart broken because this person he appears one way in public, but another way, in reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so I coined the term the iceberg, because you can only see 10% above the water, 90% below. And had I been able to see that 90% before I ever made some relationship decisions, I probably wouldn't have made those. Not regretting it, because I have 4 beautiful kids, but and we have a good relationship now. But it's just trying to flipping the iceberg. So that's how I wrote the book, to overcome trauma, and realizing that trauma affects every part of your life. And so you need to now get out of that, and instead of becoming this victim, because I could have easily been on food stamps for the rest of our lives and being that just lost everything. But instead it's, no, this isn't going to define me. And so that's how I got that. And then now the podcast Unbreakable Mompreneurs, where I try to help women create dreams. And so all of it started, I guess, when I was 22 teaching college, seeing these people come in, being told they were dumb, they were stupid, they never accomplished anything, and loved changing lives. 5,500 students. And so that's, I think, where my message is, to be able to help people realize that no matter what happens to you in your life, you can achieve your dreams and overcome whatever you want to in life. So that honestly is like, it's over 2 years, it's been this slowly culminating road to where I want to be.
Wow, that's great. That's what a timeline. So I heard in there too, I have a 19-year-old that's on the spectrum. You had 2 special needs children?
Yeah.
Wow. That's that requires I get it. I get it. So
getting them to graduate, like the last one, he's 6 months left, and I'm just like, okay, we're almost there.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I remember telling my son the first job that he ever got, I remember telling him, don't ever let anybody tell you anything other than you can do anything that you want. Because his dream was to work at an amusement park. We have a big amusement park here called Worlds of Fun. And he wants to run the biggest ride there, his favorite ride, the Mamba. And I was like, you can do whatever you want. So just get out there and do it. So it certainly makes you, what's that?
I said, I love your teaching that.
It's good. Yeah. I mean, but it's certainly when you are a parent of a special needs child, it makes you see the other side. It's almost kind of like the Stranger Things. Like, you get to see the upside down world. You get to see how the other side rolls.
Yeah. And I think it's hard because you don't want to put a label on them. So because you don't want that label to define them, but at the same time, you have to be able to explain.
Yes.
They are different, and it's okay. We just need to find a different path.
It is a weird tangential behavioral line you gotta straddle, because I think about the early years and how much there was certain focuses on it. I didn't want that to inhibit him but I always did put them on a regular timeline of let's ride a
Right.
bike, let's do this, let's do that. Like, I don't want to shy away from any of that
Right.
because there's a lot of nurture that can overcome nature if you play it right, right? You know?
You know, my mom had 8 miscarriages and she had 4 kids, right? And so
Yeah.
I was premature. My brother was severely premature. And the doctors and the nurses, they took her aside when he was born and said, now, please, you need to understand, don't expect a lot out of him. He's not gonna be able to probably accomplish very much and he's gonna be slow and blah, blah, blah. And she treated him like he was normal, like there was nothing wrong with him. And this boy, little baby that's now a grown man, he's a very successful attorney. He has accomplished great things in his life, way more intelligent and more successful in academic. I mean, he doesn't have to study and do all these things, and he can just ace any test. And
Yeah.
so, if had my mom coddled him, it would have been different.
Yeah, absolutely. So who's been a hero for you in your life?
My parents,
Yeah.
definitely my parents. Yeah, they both overcome, they're just barely starting to talk about it. My dad's a Vietnam vet, and he's like, he lost his father when he was 8, and they were destitute. They lived in this house that the company, right after he passed away, the company, well, we call it UDOT, Department of Transportation, came and took his home. So they had to move into what was a barn and create a home. So, living with the rats. And so no indoor plumbing, things that just, I can't even imagine. He had no money. His mom kind of went crazy because he was the youngest. His oldest was old enough to be his mom. And so he was kind of one of those oops babies,
Mhm.
a great oops. But he was kind of shuffled from relative to relative because she had a nervous breakdown. And so for him to go through that, to be almost like so talented at basketball that he could have probably gone into NBA had he not gotten married and had
Yeah.
a family that he chose. All the different stories that he's finally opening up about where he was so close to death, talking to somebody and they passed away instead of him. And then going to accomplish what he's been able to accomplish, where he was very high ranks in the government. That's why we move so much. And so he's overcome a ton. And my mom, the same thing. She was in a very abusive household for a very long time, didn't feel very comfortable, graduated very early, one of the first, actually the youngest to get her real estate license at the time in California. So both of them have accomplished great things. And, being able to, in my opinion, raise 4 very successful children, they're just great role models for me.
So as a podcast host, who would be a dream person you would love to meet and interview? Hmm.
You know, that's a good question. It's you. No, because um, everyone, I really thought about that a lot because, Tony Robbins would be somebody that he's accomplished. He didn't have to go to all these schools. He just accomplished these things. He's done great things. And I saw him, I was 6 feet away from him in a conference once. And so it's hard because everybody's human is what I've
Mhm.
realized. And so, yeah, there's a lot of people that I would love to interview.
Yeah.
George Washington would probably be one that I would love to talk to, Abraham Lincoln. So, but they're human,
Yeah.
and so sometimes I think if you get to know the person and realize, oh my gosh, you put them on this pedestal,
Hmm.
then it's like, oh wait, they are human. They're just
Yeah.
like me. And so
Mhm.
I want to keep them on that pedestal.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's the thing about music, having a jazz radio show. People will
Mhm.
ask me, do you play music? And I have kind of tangentially, but it's one of those mysteries in life. I picked so many hard things to do. I don't want to do music. I want it to be a mystery. I want it to be this thing that
Yes.
just, I'm
Yes.
good.
Mhm.
I'm just going to spin the records. So, um,
Like that.
what is your motivation? What is your ultimate motivation every day to get up, to accomplish, to evolve, to be who you are? What is that for you?
My motivation, without getting emotional, trying not to, is my kids. Because see, I've been
Yeah,
pushing
right.
the tears. Because I have 6 kids and it's not been an easy road for them. The first 4 to go through divorce and then to have another person come in and try to fill that role as a father. Being a step parent's difficult, especially when they've never had any kids themselves. And so it's been very, very difficult for them and to feel rejected by a parent figure, or, just it's hard. And so they, especially with special needs, I think all four of them struggle with mental health issues because genetically they were given that a lot in life. And so I want them to understand that, no matter what trauma, no matter what issues you have in your life, you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. And so for me, my motivation is to show them that what I desire in life, I can accomplish my dream, and so can they. So, being an example to my kids to show you can have what you want if you work hard enough and you
Yeah.
do it.
What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
So much. I think probably the biggest thing, because I'm one of those that hypercritical of myself growing up, like grew up in a pretty critical family. And so I was very, very hard on myself. And I always tried to accomplish more than my siblings did because I wanted to do better. Like it wasn't even a competition, but in my mind that it was.
Yeah.
And so it was don't run faster than you can walk, I
Yeah.
think is a good, because you have to remember that, you know, everything comes in time.
Yeah.
And so, yes, you can work hard for it, but what's going to happen, what will happen will happen. If it's meant to be, it will be. And so for me, realizing that if I can look in the mirror and say, I've done everything that I possibly can, and I have to be good with that, that's probably the best advice that I've gotten.
So obviously your children are paramount in your life, but if you look professionally, what are you the proudest of that you've done in your life?
Ooh, I think opening up that college, that was a huge, to start teaching at 22 years old, is teaching college. And, by 30, I was directing colleges, and being able to open that college and then being voted best of schools in Utah. That's a pretty big accomplishment, and being able to double that. When I first came to a school, they had 350 students, 9 diploma programs, and within a year and a half, we had 700 students, 22 programs, up to bachelor programs. I had gotten, it's called vet tech, a vet tech program that they had previously, before I came, tried to get accredited. They couldn't, as well as a nursing program. So I was able to get both of those accredited. So being able to do things that weren't successful in the past and being able to change, obviously, 5,500 students' lives was pretty impactful for me.
Yeah. So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into like the 18-year-old version of you. You could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life. What advice would you impart on that young version?
Follow your intuition. Um, that still small voice in the back of your head that says, hey, don't do this, or don't do that, or hey, probably shouldn't. 100%
Hmm.
follow your intuition.
Yeah.
I was, my wedding day, I was kneeling over the altar looking at my husband, and this voice hit me that said, Charisse, get up and run. And I look around and I'm going, nobody's there. Who just said that to me? And, I knew that that was a mistake in my life that I made. But again, like I look at that, and I guess the advice is, and if you don't listen to your intuition, make the most of it, because I don't regret that decision at all. It's made
Yeah.
me to be the person I am today and where I am today. And so, but you kind of wonder sometimes, have you listened to that intuition? Where would you be?
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
so,
I remember that movie in the 90s. I think Gwyneth Paltrow was in it. It was called Sliding Doors. And it's like that 1 second that you can either get on or off or run into a situation. It's fascinating how this whole human dance plays out. It's
I
weird.
know. I wish that we could watch this, like have the movie. There's so many movies like that. Nicolas Cage, I forgot the one where he could see like 5 seconds
Uh-huh.
ahead.
Uh-huh.
And so you do all these different scenarios where you would be today. And, sometimes you really wonder, like, had I listened to that voice that
Yep.
wedding day, where would I be today?
Yep.
But, woulda, coulda, shoulda is not going to get you anywhere. So embrace,
It's
grow,
the
learn.
yeah, it's the free will meets karma, meets history, meets destiny, all of those things. That's we wouldn't have all the music and art and books, and we wouldn't have any of it. It would be
I know.
boring.
Yep, that's true.
So speaking of all of these things colliding, if we get off the Zoom call and a time machine pulls up in front of your house, you can go back in time and see one event in human history. Where are you going?
Oh, I was actually just thinking about this the other day. Um, that is so hard because there's so many different things that are happening. And,
Yeah.
you watch Outlander and how this lady goes back in time and she ends up staying there. Or, um, I would actually want to be in the room of the founding fathers.
Yeah.
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 Because these men, how had to have been divinely inspired, because how did they come up with what they came up with way back then? So I would love to be in that room and watch the interaction.
The thing that blows me away about that document now in this modern day and era is they literally covered everything.
I know.
Even when your brain says, what if, they
Yeah,
have the what if of the what if covered. It's so weird, you
I
know?
know. Helping my son, I feel like I have 3 high school diplomas in addition to my own, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
helping him get through a US government class last term. It's amazing,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
It's crazy. So everyone has a perception of you. You have all these pockets of people in your life, family, friends, everyone that gets your book, your podcast, everybody in real estate, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
So had you asked me that 4 years ago, I would have probably had a much different answer. But me, I want to be a do-gooder that really just wants to change people's lives and help leave them better off than when they came. So that is the perception that I want to, I, or my intention I have.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to delve into your world, your writing, your podcast, anything involving your world, where can they go?
Several different ones. So flyfreeretiree.com for investing, Unbreakable Mompreneurs for the podcast, Flipping the Iceberg, and these are all .coms, for my book. And they can get on the list so that when it comes out, I will notify them. Or one that's should be done by the end of this week is CharisseWalker.com, which I'm going to try to just encompass all of that. And then they'll have tabs to the different things.
Wonderful. That's the thing. If you can get your name.com, even if you don't use it, just do it.
Yeah, I did.
Hey, this has been great. Thank you so much for opening up. Thank you for your time. Fascinating story. Have a wonderful 2024.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.